To understand how human belief spread across the globe, you have to look at the physical terrain that forced it to move. Between the eastern shores of the Mediterranean and the formidable peaks of the Himalayas lies a massive, unforgiving land bridge. Silk, spices, and porcelain moved along these paths, but were the secondary cargo of the region. The real activity was a volatile, high-stakes trade in ideas. Belief systems and cosmologies were the primary exports, traded and adapted with the same rigor as any tangible commodity. In late antiquity, military survival and economic prosperity were viewed as the direct result of divine favor. If a society thrived, it was because they worshipped the correct gods. Because the stakes were existential, local cults pushed outward, competing to become transnational mega-religions. These belief systems scaled across Asia using two distinct mechanical engines: the logistical networks of international merchants and the militant patronage of expanding empires. The Bamiyan Buddhas in Afghanistan illustrate the merchant-driven engine. Carved directly into the cliff face along a major trade artery, their construction required the immense capital generated by a constant flow of caravans. The opposing model is permanently etched into the stone at Naqsh-e-Rustam. Here, the Sasanian state uses monumental art to declare its physical and spiritual dominance over the landscape. To understand why specific religions triumphed, we have to look past the theology and analyze the heavy infrastructure and the political machinery that actually powered their expansion. The logistical backbone of the Asian continent was run by the Sogdians. These were highly organized middlemen originating from Central Asia who dominated the flow of goods linking China to the Indus Valley. They outcompeted their rivals through two structural advantages: tight-knit family networks to ensure trust across borders, and sophisticated credit facilities to keep commerce flowing without physically transporting hard currency across thousands of miles. Moving goods through hostile terrain required a highly dependable chain of secure stopping points. These nodes emerged as oasis settlements along primary arteries, functioning simultaneously as commercial hubs and early Buddhist monasteries. Inventory flowing through included pearls, gold, and lapis lazuli, moving right alongside Buddhist iconography. As the Sogdians expanded their commercial footprint, they used Buddhism to anchor their network. Establishing monasteries allowed them to secure and formalize their crucial way stations through a shared belief system. Early Buddhism reached its massive scale because it successfully integrated into the most advanced commercial logistics network of the ancient world. This infrastructural expansion was funded by an explicit economics of salvation. Sacred texts like the Lotus Sutra were integrated into the mechanics of trade to extract capital from the merchant class. The texts established a transactional relationship. Donating precious, highly liquid assets like diamonds, emeralds, and silk bought the donor's spiritual merit. For travelers facing the brutal realities of the road, the promise was irresistible. Donors were assured that their wealth would buy them safe passage over the oceans of sufferings. This transfer of wealth from merchants to monks materialized into physical architecture, transforming remote, vulnerable way stations into massive, fortified banking and cultural hubs. In this system, commerce did more than move faith. It actively financed the institutions that allowed the religion to survive. The second engine of expansion operated from the top down. This was the militant consolidation of belief driven by a centralized empire. By the 3rd century, Sasanian Persia grew increasingly paranoid about the encroaching merchant faiths from the east and Roman Christianity from the west. The response was a violent consolidation of power led by the Zoroastrian priesthood to eliminate foreign influences and internal dissent. The inscription of the high priest Kurdir at Naqsh-e-Rustam operates as a geopolitical policy document, illustrating absolute submission to the state religion. The Sasanian state worked to eliminate alternative cosmologies and rival cults, creating a unified theological base to centralize absolute authority. This consolidation transformed the geography. The borders of Sasanian Persia solidified into stark, impenetrable boundary lines. These hard imperial walls stood in direct contrast to the fluid, permeable nodes of the Sogdian merchant network. By fusing Zoroastrian values with Persian identity, the empire turned belief into an administrative technology. This transformed the faith into a primary supporting pillar of Sasanian kingship. Enforcing a state religion allowed the empire to unify a diverse population and harden its borders against geopolitical rivals. Eventually, these two engines, the fluid merchant networks and the rigid imperial states, were forced into a collision. You can see the geographic intersection of these two models right in the middle of the continent. This Central Asian cauldron forced Indo-European, Semitic, and Sino-Tibetan language groups into constant interaction. One specific artifact illustrates the result of this collision between trade logistics and competing cosmologies. It is an ancient parchment fragment containing a Christian psalter. The text is fundamentally a piece of Western Christian scripture, yet it has been translated into Sogdian, the language of the merchant class, to ensure it could function within their commercial network. It is written using a Middle Eastern Syriac script, reflecting the overlapping cultural layers of the region. This layering of script and language demonstrates how a faith had to be re-engineered to survive the dominant commercial and political networks of its time. In this environment, success in the markets or on the battlefield was impossible without demonstrating the backing of a powerful god. The competition between merchant profit and imperial power didn't just move goods, it built the institutional framework that allowed these religions to endure for centuries.